I was gonna say, and you like combed your hair and stuff.
I
It's
did.
all
Well,
looking all
I
spiffy.
washed my hair, and I need a haircut. So if I don't comb it back, then it's about this long.
Scandalous.
I feel so bad for you.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to that Star Trek podcast. My name is Sean Ray, and I'd love to hear a podcast where Neelix has to cook things and Worf has to taste them and declare them either delicious or disgraceful. Wouldn't that be awesome? Joining me tonight in the historic Infinite Potato Virtual Studio, we have Jen. How's it going?
Hi, everybody. It's so great to be back. It's been a while.
We also have Rick. How are you?
Whoosh. I'm invisible.
Where'd Rick go?
What, you can see me?
And joining us tonight also is Nick Yeager. How are you?
I'm doing well.
All right. Tonight we're going to be talking about Deep Space Nine, Season 3, Episode 11, which is part of our time travel retrospective series. Written by, the episode is titled Past Tense. It's written by Robert Hewitt Wolf and Ira Stephen Bear. Part 1 was directed by Reza Badiyi, and Part 2 was directed by Jonathan Frakes. Original air date was January 2nd and January 9th of 1995. Cisco, Bashir, and Dax are accidentally sent to San Francisco in the 21st century due to a transporter malfunction and must figure out how to get back to return without changing the timeline. Another
another IMDb concise, utterly useless synopsis.
I mean, that is basically the plot. They went back in time and they had to figure out how to get back.
Okay. I'll give you that. That's more accurate than they usually are.
And once again, it's the transporter. A transporter malfunction
Yeah, why would
caused
anyone
this
use
thing
the
happen.
transporter?
How many times, like out of 10 times that you use the transporter, how many times does it do something it's not supposed to do?
Right?
Yeah.
Seriously.
It either transports you to an alternate timeline, it turns you into a child, it duplicates you.
I mean, Bones was on to something,
Yeah, really.
Yeah. All right, so let's do our initial thoughts. Neek, what do you think of this episode overall?
I love it. I think it's a really strong, well, as I said, it's 2 episodes, a 2-parter, and it deserved to be a 2-parter. Thought it was a really strong episode. So I rewatched it last week in preparation for this. And, very topical. I guess it deals with themes that are like never not relevant. So fair enough. It's always going to be topical. But it was striking how extremely relevant it is for today.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's weird. It's more topical than they thought it was at the time because while they were filming this episode, there was a story that came out in the paper in California where they were filming that somebody was actually trying to propose some legislature that would essentially put homeless people into an area and put a fence around them. So that you couldn't see them. They would be out of sight, out of mind, Jen, what about you? What'd you think?
It's actually one of my favorite DS9 episodes. Well, 2-parter. I count it as a big episode, but yeah, it's very topical, especially, well, I didn't know it was based on that thing. I thought it was based off of, because the Rodney King riots was not too far before this. That's what I thought it was a kind of based on. I'm sure that was part of their idea when they were writing it. But it's not too far off.
Yeah, it was probably inspired by a few things, I would imagine.
Yeah. The only thing that's missing from what we've got now is disease. But yeah, it's very topical as far as, not so much the race, but the political separation, all that stuff, because they had the homeless people in one area, they had all the rich people in this area, they had all the that everybody's segregated, which, yeah, we're kind of going that direction now. It's not even because of COVID. It's just been that way for recent. And yeah, and the fact that this takes place not far from where we are now is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a couple of years from now in the timeline. I think it was
2024.
2024. Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
Rick, what about you? What do you think?
I think this is Star Trek at its best. I watched it again today, and I do think that maybe this could have been one part, but it didn't feel too terribly padded to be two parts. I think if it had been one part, I might have been bitching that it wasn't two parts. So I think it's it's what it should be. It's hard going back to rewatch something and you're like, oh, just get on with it. I think it did everything really well. It's the fact that it's, in the distant future of 2 years from now or 3 years from now. And when did you say the air date was?
95.
95. Yeah.
So really nailing the predictions of the internet, because in 95 nobody was talking internet except for a very niche crowd on college campuses or
I had America Online.
in 95.
Yeah, in 95. Yeah, 94, 95.
Hey, I had Prodigy in 91.
Maybe I'm getting my years mixed up. I don't think I got my first computer till like 1998. And
Jeez.
Wow.
Give us the program, old man.
Yeah, you were behind the times,
they
sir.
were expensive as hell. My first computer was like $900, and I think its memory was in the kilobytes still. But
and if you tried to download anything, it would take about 4 days.
It took forever because it was over the phone line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mom, don't pick up the phone. I'm trying to download a movie.
And it's a porn. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I remember, I'd go to download a picture, and I'd start the download and go like, all right, I'm gonna go put some laundry in and wash the dishes,
exactly.
and then get back and like half of it's there.
Download things overnight.
Back in our day.
But anyway, in 95, it was not what it is today, and for them to be that prescient to see that it would become an integral part of life was pretty cool.
It's interesting because I almost have the opposite view, that you think that they were fairly accurate in their prediction of the internet, because I was a little taken out of the episode by how inaccurate it was in terms of people's reachability, because both the Cisco and Bashir and Dax, they immediately say, like, I have no way of contacting my friends, and everyone else just accepts that. They're like, yep, that tracks. There certainly is no way to contact people.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on. Even in the 90s, there were a way to track people down. Like it was silly how easily people accepted that as a truth. Like, they have no email, they have no snail mail even. Like, come on. It was that I feel stretched believability even for 1995, and certainly for a prediction of the future. I thought that took me out of it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there should have been, especially Dax's benefactor should have been like, huh? Really?
Exactly.
ICQ, yes.
Yeah, like, okay, and also his computer was so crappy that also took me out of it. But indeed, he was some sort of like Silicon Valley type guy. So for him to just blindly accept, like, you're correct, you cannot reach your friends, that was I would say that was a little bit of poor writing. Like, they were just sort of hand waving that, and I feel like they could have done, I don't know, some other little bit of dialogue to just give a better explanation for why they can't reach each other. I mean, not that I have any ideas for what they could have said instead.
That was one thing that stood out to me, is that any kind of science fiction show that does something like this, where they take all of the poor people, or they take all the people of one race or whatever, and they put them into an area, they usually put some kind of a tracker on them, so that even if they escape, they'll be able to track them down and find them. And they weren't doing any of that. They were just like, get in there, stay in there.
Right.
Don't
Well,
come
that was
out.
kind of the whole point of it, though, was that they were, even in Escape from New York, they knew who was in there and where they were. But the whole point of this was we don't want to know. We're just throwing them in there and forgetting that they exist, and that was kind of
Right.
the whole.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
ghost idea, yeah, that they're completely shut away and forgotten about and essentially killed, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember I really liked this episode when it came out. There's a big difference between a two-parter that is made like in the middle of the season and a two-parter that's made as like the season finale and season premiere. Because a lot of times they'll make that season finale and have no idea what they're going to do for part 2. And that's why so many of the season premieres, those second parts of those two-parters, are a lot of times they're disappointing. You know, they don't do what we thought that they should have done or whatever because they didn't know what they were going to do. But this was written out as a two-parter. You know, they had the whole story figured out. It was set in the middle of the season. So that's one of the reasons why I think that it's a lot better. I really think it holds up because, you know, most of the issues that it deals with are just as relevant today as they were then, if not more so. And I think that Avery Brooks gave a really good performance. He's always over the top, but it never really feels like it's too much. You know, I think it's a lot of fun to see him just chew the scenery, you know. Terry Farrell's a little bit wooden in this episode.
She always is.
Yeah. That's
I mean, at this point, she was past the "I'm trying to be a Vulcan" phase that she was doing in season 1. She had kind of opened up a little bit by season 3, but yeah, I see what you mean. Well, I could have also been where she was as far as the story, because she was with the rich people the whole time.
Yeah.
She could have been putting on a facade too.
Yeah, but she started her cover-up stories before she even realized where she was or that she had traveled in time. She just immediately said, "Oh, my brooch." Like, how do you know that he doesn't know what that is?
Well, I bought it though. I liked that she immediately picked up on, you know, something's not right. I'm in a strange environment, you know, play dumb, you know, don't give anything away. I really bought that from her, especially from someone who's so long lived that you would
Yeah.
immediately look around, you know, this is not right, and then just sort of go with it. So I actually, you know, I'm not going to talk about Terry's performance, but in terms of what Dax did, I found believable.
Have we determined that Dax lived at that time? The symbiote was alive at that point? Or did...
I don't know if that's established, but I mean, it's not like they would have been on Earth, so...
Yeah, they wouldn't
Yeah.
they wouldn't have been on Earth either way, so... Yeah, she was a little wooden, but she wasn't like Garrett Wong level wooden. But...
Throw an unnecessary shade. Ouch.
Yeah. All right. The sets were really good. This was one. I think this was one of the first times that they had used the Paramount backlot to the level that they did in this since like Star Trek 4, from what I read. You know, there was one problem that I had as far as, I don't know if you would call it continuity or just an eye to detail, but this episode takes place in August in San Francisco, and everybody's wearing big fur coats and gathered around barrels that have fire in them, like they're just freezing, you know, and like it's San Francisco in August.
Oh, it was supposed to be August. I missed that because they were definitely. Ooh, it's so cold.
I didn't catch that either. I thought it was in like November or something.
No, he said in the
pick up on
episode
that.
they were sitting in that office and he looked up at the calendar and it said like August 20 something, and he said, yeah, the bell rides take place the first week of September. And so it's just right around the corner. Like,
yeah, San Francisco's cold, but it ain't that cold.
no, yeah, you need to shed a few layers. You're gonna die of a heat stroke staying that close to that fire barrel like that.
The only thing that really bugged me, and this I will grant you, is an incredibly tiny nit, but TV shows do this all the time, and it's like when you've got a pump shotgun in your hand and you want to make a point, you rack that mother. Yeah. And there should have just been unspent shells all over the place because every time they got pissed off, they racked the gun at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just like in any type of cop show or whatever. If you have a pistol, you point it at somebody and say something, and then when you want to make your point, you pull the hammer back. It's like that's a good way to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Just pulling the hammer back and just standing there holding the gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it's
Part
like
one.
also, and just, I mean, never mind, nothing.
No, go ahead.
Have y'all seen Gunpowder Milkshake yet?
Yes, I love it.
No,
I'm the one who
no.
told
No,
you
not
about
yet.
it.
I haven't
Not
seen
yet.
it yet. No spoilers.
No spoilers. They just do a thing that I was so disappointed because if you've ever fired a semi-automatic pistol, when it runs out of ammunition, the slide locks back. There's none of this click, click, click like a revolver. It's very clear that the gun is empty. And they did that so many times of click, damn, I'm empty. And these are all like professional hitmen and stuff. So anyway,
All right.
gun tropes piss me off a lot.
So Commander Sisko, Dr. Bashir, and Jadzia Dax beam down to Earth from the Defiant, and an accident occurs and they materialize in San Francisco in the year 2024. Dax is separated from the crew members, but she's helped by a prominent businessman, Chris Brenner, played by Jim Metzler.
Because of course, whenever I'm unconscious in a city park, Jeff Bezos just happens to walk by.
Yeah, he was kind of a Jeff Bezos type, wasn't he? Wow.
And he immediately, I don't know if his deal was just like, ooh, pretty girl or whatever, but
I
he's
think
like, here,
so.
here, come with me. I will take care of you.
Well, yeah, that was the subtext. Yeah, it was just like, yeah, beautiful woman, I'll help her. Yeah. Although, again, he was so helpful to her that, like, I felt like it was, again, a little bit of poor writing, because you're not going to be that helpful unless you have an ulterior motive. And he never got, creepy towards her. So I'm like, really? Like, why is he just assuming that she's like in the same social strata that he is? Like, why was he so nice? And why was he so willing to accept everything she said and so unquestioning towards everything? And she's like, but at the same time, unhelpful in terms of actually helping her do what she wanted to do. Like, I need to find my friends. Oh, I'm sure they're fine. Well, they might be in this like camp. Oh yeah, I guess they are. Whatever. Like, and yet it was a little bit inconsistent. It's like either you're on Team Dax or you're not. But this sort of like waffling back and forth, helping her out, but not really, was a bit bizarre.
I agree.
And her story really didn't seem all that plausible, what she was making up, because she was just like, yes, I was with some people and now I don't know where they are, and where are all my clothes? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, and these tattoos, it was just, they were, oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, it's, it's a lot like, what's the Voyager one? I can't remember the name of it. The one where they end up back in 1990s.
Yeah, 96. Yeah.
In LA. I think they're in LA,
yeah.
Voyager, yeah.
Where they did have a character like that, but he did end up being the asshole of the episode.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it made sense that he was, whatever he was doing, the motivations eventually added up. Whereas this guy, he was just inserted there to, in a sense, just give Dax access to whatever, to really show the disparity between the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
But his behavior was a little bit bizarre.
Yeah.
Who is Facebook user, by the way? You're making some really good points.
I don't even have the comments up.
I wasn't paying attention.
Awkward. Yeah, that people don't help strangers. Well, it depends on the person. But in big cities like San Francisco, like where they had this, no.
Well, but I think one of the things
Brandon.
that we have seen. Oh, hey, Brandon. One of the things we've seen, and it's really coming to the forefront lately with the suborbital penis measuring contest that's been going on for the past week, is that to be being a multi-billionaire or whatever kind of requires a certain level of being an asshole to make it that far. And so,
Yeah.
that was kind of my problem with the guy. Was he's like you said, he's basically saying, "Hi, stranger that I found unconscious in the park. Come and live with me, and here's access to all of my stuff."
Yeah.
Because
as
you're
opposed
cute.
to because you're cute, and
Yeah, as opposed to calling the police and letting
Yeah.
them handle it. Yeah. 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 Again.
Mhm.
it's just
Oh, the police
weird.
in this episode are the worst.
It was
But
contrived.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
I like it. I like any time that one of their alien characters has to travel back in time. They have to find some weird explanation for whatever physical attribute that they have, and
tattoo
it's
beat
always
mechanical rice picker.
yeah. But it's always just accepted. Like, okay, because Spock got his head caught in a mechanical rice picker, and the cop's just like, okay.
No, the cop didn't buy it at all. They had to knock him out.
And then she tells, oh yeah, my tattoos. Oh, okay, those are beautiful.
Well-
Where'd you get them done?
Why,
You're right.
why would you not believe that? Would your mind really go, "Oh, alien," just because someone has a few birthmarks? Like, come on.
Yeah,
there's-
I guess you're right.
I mean, I have the opposite view. Like, there is most of the aliens in Star Trek are so not alien. So, like Kira and O'Brien, when they start time traveling, and she puts like a little band-aid over her nose, like, really, come on. Like, anyone's even gonna notice you have a few wrinkles on your nose? Like, give me a break.
Yeah, the Bajorans are the least alien of the aliens, really. I got a couple of lines on my nose, and that makes me not human.
Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah, I remember hearing an interview with Rene Auberjonois one time, and he was talking about the fact that he had to sit in the makeup chair for like 4 hours, and the Nav visitor sat in the makeup chair for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
By the way, I would like to point out, ladies and gentlemen, we are 21, almost 22 minutes into an episode about a time travel episode, and Sean has yet to bitch about the time travel. I think we've hit a record here.
I was saving it for the end.
Aw.
All right, so Cisco and Bashir they get woke up by a couple of police officers. I gotta go meet Sonya's gonna kill me. I gotta go meet Sonya and the kids.
Now, were they cops or were they like security? I never did quite.
Yeah,
I think they were
sort of-
police. I think they were
I
police.
took them to be the security guards for like those camps.
I
But-
thought they were police. I did, but
I thought they were police officers that were just assigned to be guards over these
But
camps.
they weren't dressed like police. They were dressed more like janitors, really.
Yeah, you could be right. You could be right. So one of them was played by Dick Miller, who unfortunately passed away in 1990. He's been in Star
the guy
Trek a
that's
few
been
times.
in everything. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in a few episodes of Star Trek too. This is not the first time he's been on Star Trek. And Bernardo, played by Al Rodrigo, who they think they're vagrants and they want him to get off the streets, and they escort him to a sanctuary district, which is a fenced-off ghetto that's used to contain the poor, the sick, and the mentally disabled, and anyone who cannot support themselves. But yeah, after about the third time that guy was talking about Sonya and the kids, I was like, just get rid of that guy. He's getting on my nerves.
And they did. I
Yeah.
liked that he kept talking about his family because they were trying to show a bit of nuance there by having, the good cop and the bad cop, but just showing that like not all cops or security officers or whatever they're not all bad guys. Like even the one who was more caustic was a little bit nuanced. Like, they're trying to do their job. It's not like they were evil. It's not like they wanted to see people suffer. So having that guy always talk about his family was just a way of showing that he's a human like everyone else, and he's just doing his job, and he's not deliberately trying to hurt the people in the camp. He's just, he's clocking his 9 to 5.
Yeah, I kind of like I said, after about the third time that he brought up his wife and kids, I was like, something bad's going to happen to that guy. Isn't
it's
that
my
the
last
trope?
day before retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a trope.
I have to give this episode credit in that, with the exception of Fedora Dude, nobody really put on a red shirt in the whole episode. We were expecting Family Guy to buy it, but you know, they really avoided a lot of cliches and that they could have gone for in this episode. You know, like you said, Neek, they were really trying to make everybody seem like a you know, as much of a fleshed out human being as you can in, you know, in 2 45-minute episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Cisco realizes that they're just a few days away from the Bell riots, which is a violent confrontation in San Francisco's Sanctuary District that Cisco recalls as a watershed moment in human history. Dozens will be killed, including a man named Gabriel Bell, the leader of the demonstration. Bell will become a hero because of his self-sacrifice while protecting hostages. And as a result of Bell's heroism, attitudes towards the disadvantaged begin to change. But a fight breaks out, and Cisco and Bashir, someone's trying to steal their food cards, and the man comes in to try and protect them, and he ends up getting killed, and it turns out that that's Gabriel Bell. So there you go. you've already changed the future, guys. Which, I mean, that's kind of the thing in time travel episodes. No matter what you try to do to not change the future, you're going to change the future just because you're there, you know. But usually it doesn't necessarily have to be to that drastic of a of a thing. But in order to keep the timeline intact, Cisco assumes his identity and starts telling people that he's Gabriel Bell.
Well, that's later though. That's
yeah. Well, towards the end of the episode, he starts the end of part 1. He starts telling people he's Gabriel Bell, which, you know, that could mean, hey, that we know that Gabriel Bell dies in these riots. Is Cisco going to die? I don't know. It's season 3, probably not.
It was really weird going back to Cisco as a commander and without the
goatee and with hair on his head.
Because like I'm rewatching DS9 along with Mission Log, so like I watched 4 episodes of DS9 today.
Wow.
the you know, the 2 of this and then Visionary, which we're going to talk about next week, and then also Tears of the Prophets, which I forgot which one that was. But just season 3 to season 6, it's a bit jarring because you know, Avery Brooks just, I love DS9 from the point where Avery Brooks went, screw all y'all, I'm doing what I want now.
yeah, because
I'm shaving my head, I'm growing the beard back, and y'all can bite me.
Yeah, because he was
doing another show at the time as well. He was doing what was it? He was doing some TV movies where he was playing another character.
Well,
who had a shaved head and a beard.
He wanted that look from the beginning, and they wouldn't let him do it. Yeah. That's the way he used to look when he was on Spencer for Hire. And he
Spencer.
Yeah, but they wouldn't let him do it. They thought that, I don't know if that he would look more relatable or whatever if he didn't have a beard. But I like him better with the beard and without the hair.
Yeah, he looks more badass. I mean,
come on. Now, something you said earlier that I want to not take issue with, but you said, you know, Avery Brooks his performance is usually very over the top, and I agree with you. I thought for this episode he really dialed it back and was a lot more understated than usual.
I agree. Yeah.
I think that even when he's delivering a line that's just normal conversation, there's something about the way he talks that just everything he says seems more intense to me. So I guess that's what I'm picking up on. I think that he could order coffee and it would sound like, yes, I want some coffee.
Yeah. Okay. Brandon just said they didn't want him to look like a scary black man. They wanted him to have audiences to like him. Specifically white audiences to like him. I'm like, maybe. I think they wanted him to be more Starfleet friendly looking. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I mean, facial hair is not new for Star Trek. I mean,
look at Riker.
Yeah, Riker had a beard forever, and it's always after a couple of seasons. a character grows a beard and the show gets a lot better, you know?
It tracks.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back in the 24th century, the crew left on the Defiant, Major Kira, Odo, and Chief O'Brien, they've lost contact with Earth. All traces of the Federation have suddenly vanished.
And the first officer has wings. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So Gabriel Bell's death has radically altered the timeline. O'Brien calculates several possible time periods. They've figured out that they traveled in time instead of that they've just lost them somewhere. But they figured out several possible time periods that they could have gone to, and Kira and O'Brien begin transporting from one period to another in order to search for them. And that's the end of part 1.
Now, I will be the first to step up and say, I really had a problem with the reason why the Defiant was insulated from the time changes. I was cool with the
because basically
it was just like, we need them to be insulated from it, so make up a reason. And then the whole Kira and O'Brien beaming to various time periods. I was okay with the first one, with them going to the 20s. That was okay. But the hippie thing really pissed me off because it was just like so stupid.
It was a little over the top. Yeah.
Because I mean, when I was in high school, 1981, we did a skit. I was in the drama club, big shock. We did a skit where we had hippies in the skit, and and that's how we acted as hippies in 1981 in high school. These people should have known better. And it was still just like,
it was cringy. It was too stereotypical. Yeah. But I guess their little interludes were meant to be just a bit of comic relief. So, sure.
Oh, Boz! No.
Hey, Boz, good to see you.
He's just jealous because hippies have lots of hair. They don't always have lots of hair, but
everybody put your fingers in yours for a minute. No, I'm not. I'm going to behave. This is newer, kinder, gentler Rick. I'm not going to drop an F-bomb. Fuck you, Buzz.
And there it is, folks.
All right. So Part 2 picks up, and Cisco, posing as Gabriel Bell, and Bashir return to the unemployment center. Note the clock on the wall now gives the date of September 4th, 2024. Just as it is stormed by a group of disgruntled sanctuary residents and its staff and police officers taken hostage. Cisco takes on the leadership of the revolt, trying to ensure that nobody gets hurt, and understanding that at the resolution of the revolt, Gabriel Bell must die. He makes demands to the governor. He insists that they be given airtime to express their grievances, and he wants the sanctuary districts closed. And everybody just kind of starts taking their turn, getting in front of the webcam and telling, I used to have a job and now I don't, and and I want my job back, all that kind of stuff. So,
isn't that at the end of part 2?
This is part 2. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're in part 2.
Oh, are we? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more towards the beginning of part 2. Yeah. But Dax is watching the riots from Brenner's office, knowing that Cisco and Bashir are probably caught down there and in danger, and she heads down to find them. She sneaks through she sneaks through the sewer, but she's still rather clean when she comes out.
Still immaculate, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the 90s. That's what they did.
But that did actually bother me. Not just the fact that she went through a sewer, which would be infested with cockroaches and rats and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But just that the sanctuary district in general, and this is a problem with Star Trek and just their low budget, is that whenever they go anywhere, it's so clean. Like the sanctuary district was meant to be this like terrible hellhole, but like, I mean, you could eat off the ground. Like it was way too clean. It was way too nice. And like I said, Star Trek is always like that. So it's like, okay, you just sort of accept it. And, you know, I sort of had the same impression. What's the TNG episode where they time travel to whatever the late 1800s or early 1900s,
Yeah, the
or
19th
whatever
century,
the times are. And like, again, it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, it's so clean. And there's like, come on, like there'd be horse shit all over the place. Like,
Right.
like
Yeah.
these places are not so clean. Like even today, you walk down the street, it's not so immaculate. So that took me out of it. And yeah, and it really was a step too far to have her crawl out of a sewer and just like, oh, I'm a little bit dusty. I'll just carry on now. Like, come on.
Well,
You know what
yeah, when
bothered
they go
me
in,
about
go ahead.
what bothered me about that scene and when she went back down into it is, have you ever tried to lift a 3-foot
Yeah.
diameter, 1.5 inch thick plate of steel?
Yeah.
Those things are not light.
Yeah, and
Nope.
they're usually made so that you can't just reach down and pick it up because they don't
Nope.
want just
Yeah.
anybody just going down there. You have to have
Yeah.
a special tool to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when they were back in part 1, when Cisco and Bashir were looking for a place to sleep, and they were going in those apartment buildings and stuff and looking for somewhere to lie down. I've been in apartment buildings or just buildings in general that are in cities that are not that nice looking now, you know, and you think if it's that crowded, there's going to be people lying all over the stairs. There's going to be people all on the floor. You won't even be able to walk through the hall for having to step over a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they were just, you know, just walking around.
I think we do have to cut them a little bit of slack though for, you know,
Just budget. Yeah.
budget and time. You know, this was still when they were doing 24 to 26 episodes a season.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you know, even if they were using the backlot, so a lot of the sets already existed, you know, they had probably, you know, half a day to shoot on any one place, and it was just like, all right, throw some shit over there, shoot it, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was the last episode that aired before Voyager started, and I think that they probably stole some of Deep Space Nine's budget for Voyager.
Oh, there's no probably about it.
Because I know
Berman
when
had
Deep Space Nine, when Deep Space Nine started, I know for a fact they took some of TNG's budget
Mm-hmm.
to start Deep Space Nine. So
Well, once they started making Voyager, Berman was like, the hell with DS9, Voyager is my show now, and
yeah,
it paid off in that it allowed DS9 to get away with a lot of stuff they wouldn't have been able to. But Berman also went, oh, all you good writers, you're with me now. and yoinked him over to Voyager.
well, Kira and O'Brien only have enough energy for one more transport, and they have 2 places to pick from. So luckily, they picked the
Yeah.
right one. Oh, was it three places? Luckily, they picked the right one, and they went there and they found Dax. So they were standing by to rescue Cisco and Bashir if they can. It's a close call as the SWAT teams move in on the employment center to end the riot once and for all. They open fire, killing the leaders of the revolt. Cisco takes a bullet in the shoulder to protect one of the hostages. Once the riots are over, the 2 police officers that first confronted Cisco and Bashir agree to take Cisco's identification with Bell's name on it and put it on one of the dead guys, and also tell the truth about what happened there. So when they go back to the future, if you look up Gabriel Bell, Cisco's
It's got
name,
Cisco's picture on there. Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm going to have a good time explaining that to Starfleet Command.
And you know what? When I remembered that as being a haha line, but why would he have to? One, it's history at that point. It's not, you know, nothing has quote unquote changed as far as anyone that wasn't on board the Defiant would know. 2, it's an incredibly obscure tidbit in history. He didn't have to say anything. The odds of someone looking it up and going, hey, Gabriel Bell looks an awful lot like Ben Sisko are like nil.
Mm.
This
Yeah,
was
but
the first.
He just
Go ahead.
meant like, oh, I'm going to have to explain to Starfleet the role we played in this whole.
Yeah.
event.
Or they could have just not said anything and just been fine.
Well,
That's true. This is a
they're
couple of
Starfleet
seasons.
officers. They're going to follow the rules. to
Yeah,
the best
this is a
their
couple of
ability.
seasons before I can live with that.
True.
Yes, exactly.
What-
Yeah.
This
He wasn't
episode
pushed
is
to his
the
limits yet.
This episode is the first time that Starfleet's temporal displacement policy is mentioned. So the kind of hint, hint, nudge, nudge, there's probably somebody that's paying attention to this kind of stuff. And when you make changes to the timeline, somebody knows about it or whatever, so. But it was dropped. It was never brought up again, so it doesn't matter.
They get a call. This is the Guardian of Forever. You need to talk to this guy.
So I've got some trivia for these episodes. Ira Stephen Bear's inspiration came to create the Bell Riots was the 1971 riot in New York's Attica prison, which was caused primarily by inmates' demands for more humane living conditions being continually ignored by authorities. But they said in the Bell Riot, still dozens of people were killed. I think a lot more people were killed in this Attica prison riot.
Well,
than that.
Yeah. It was a prison, and it was the 70s.
Yeah.
Attica. Sorry.
The working title for this episode was Cold and Distant Stars. The original teleplay, written by Robert Hewitt Wolfe, involved Sisko going back in time and ending up homeless. His claims that he was actually from the future and was the commander of a space station prompted those around him to think that he was insane. And he was eventually given Thorazine. The script was written by Wolfe as a commentary on the apathy of the people of the 20th century towards the homeless. Nobody was very happy with the script. Bear came up with the idea of the Sanctuary District, and the Bell Riots, and later the concept of a Starfleet officer becoming stranded in the past and ending up homeless would be used in Star Trek Voyager for Future's End.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Bashir gives the hypoglycemic Lee a shot of glucogen.
Yeah.
That medication is used to force the liver to release its stored glucose when a patient is unconscious or otherwise unable to eat carbohydrates. For what it's worth, in most countries, a dose of glucogen costs about $25. In the U.S., it costs over $250.
Mm-hmm.
The historical events in this episode take place in 2024. Another reference to that year was heard in Star Trek: The Next Generation, The Higher Ground, where Data said that was the year that Ireland was reunified.
By the way, what was it? There was some mention this was like District 47 or something. 47 was mentioned in this episode.
Yeah, I think you're right. I saw something pop up on my IMDb about 47. I think it was Sanctuary District number 47 or something like that. Christopher Brenner's apartment was later reused as Harry, Kim, and Libby's apartment in the Star Trek Voyager episode Non Sequitur, also in 1995. Chris Brenner, Vin, Lee, and Bernardo are all named after characters from the classic film The Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
Brenner also takes his name from Oscar-winning actor Yul Brynner.
Brenner, yeah.
Dick Miller, who played one of the cops, as I was talking about before, he's acted in two different Star Trek series. He portrayed the newsstand vendor in the Next Generation episode The Big Goodbye, and then he appeared in two episodes of Deep Space Nine in season 3. He played this character, and he also played wait a minute. He played the character Vin in Star Trek Deep Space Nine past one. Okay, apparently I didn't write down what the other one was. Anyway, in both instances, he plays characters from centuries before the time frames of the series. So he's always playing like a past character.
Yeah, he's one of those, that guy. He's been in
he's one of those. Oh, I've seen that guy in that thing.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. The boxing advertisement scene in the 1930 scene with Kira and O'Brien showcases the same boxers as the advertisement scene in the original series episode, The City on the Edge of Forever. The ad from the original series is for a bout at Madison Square Garden. The ad scene in this episode is for a bout at Bayland Garden, and notes that it's their first rematch since Madison Square Garden. So the reason this poster was used was to give a subtle hint that O'Brien and Kira were on Earth at exactly the same time as Kira and Spock.
Kirk
and Spock.
Excuse me, that's what I meant to say. Doug Drexler says that the poster was included because the scene featuring the time travelers popping into an urban setting was almost identical to one in the city on the Edge of Forever. This is the second of only. This is the second of only 4 Deep Space Nine episodes not to feature any scenes on Deep Space Nine, with the exception of the regular opening credits, and then Quark was on the view screen at the beginning.
It's funny. I never really paid attention to stuff like that, but now rewatching DS9, knowing that they all had a contractual obligation to be in a certain number of episodes, when it's something like what they did with Armin Shimmerman in this one, where it was like, why the hell are they talking to Quark? Oh, they need him to be in this episode.
Yeah, they did that in the Mirror Universe episodes. Quark's mirror counterpart was killed the first time that they went.
Yep.
So the next time that they went, they had to make sure and have a Quark scene at the very beginning. So Armin Shimmerman had to go in and get all made up for. Hopefully,
2 minutes of screen time. Yeah.
Hopefully, they just filmed his scene at the same time that he was doing some other stuff or something like that. But
well, again, forgive me if you're a Berman fan, but I kind of don't blame them, because I know for a fact that it would be like, oh, I'm not gonna be in this one. Okay, you're not gonna get paid, because Berman was that kind of asshole.
Yeah. All right, so I will complain one thing about the time travel, and it's not something that. I mean, it's not something that could be helped. It had to be done this way. But if the Defiant is in space and the transporter accident sends them back in time when they beam down to Earth, Earth would not be in the same place 300 years in the past. So they would have just beamed them out into space.
Yeah.
So that's the only complaint that I really have. But
people, and I'm one of them, have been making this particular observation ever since H.G. Wells wrote The Time Machine. So it just is what it is.
Well, yeah, I mean that's really, if you think about it, that's the thing with almost every time travel story, if you think about it. But they had to figure out a way to get. They have to get back there somehow.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Folks, as soon as the podcast is over, I want you to head over to patreon.com/infinite potato, because that is where the party continues. Our patrons get some great perks like early access to episodes. They get special movie reviews every month. I'm planning a hangout with our premium level patrons sometime in the next week or so. You can join for just $3 a month. If you donate $5 or $10 a month, then you'll be thanked on the podcast as a producer, which is the case for Bullet Bengal, Jeff Hughes, Tom Corcoran, Dale Goodall, and Brandon Ushio. Thank you all for your donations, and it really helps going further to helping us put together a better show, better equipment, better recording services. So go check out patreon.com/infinite potato, and that is going to do it for this week. Next week, or within the next couple of weeks, we will return with another Deep Space Nine episode. We will discuss season 3, episode 17, Visionary. Jen, thank you very much for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, as always, thank you for having me.
Neek, pleasure to talk to you again.
Thank you.
Let everybody know where they can find you.
Superanemic.com, and you can also find me on Facebook as Super Anemic.
All right. And Rick?
You can find me as the new host for the Prime Direction, where this way. The only surviving episode of 4 I recorded was talking to Neek about her Star Trek journey, and I would be happy to talk to you all about your Star Trek journey. That's what the Prime Direction is all about, where you are the story. Oh God, I wish I could speak well. Anyway, you can hear me on that. You can hear me on Starbase 66, which we lost an episode of that. It's a long, very unpleasant story, but anyway, I'm here all over the Cosmic Infinite, whatever the hell we are, network. I'm sorry, folks. It's been a long week. So, if you don't know where to find me and you want to find more of me, God knows why, but you can find me on the network here. So, yeah, bye.
All right. And remember, you can contact us on Facebook and Twitter. Just go to our website at infinitepotato.com and click on the links to take you there. And if you're so inclined, go to Apple Podcasts or whatever service that you listen to the show through, subscribe to the podcast and leave us a 5-star rating and a review. That goes a long way toward helping new people find the show. So until next time. Oh, go ahead.
I just realized how I even started by quoting him. How did we not mention Clint Howard's cameo in this episode?
No, I forgot about it. Yeah. Clint Howard showed up being Clint Howard. Clint gonna be Clint.
And if you don't know who Clint Howard is, 1, he's Ron Howard's brother, but 2, he played Baylock in the 2nd episode of Star Trek ever aired. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. How the hell am I blanking on the name?
Well, if you can't remember it, I'm not going to be able to remember it.
Yeah, I can't remember it either.
But I think Clint Howard has shown up at least once in almost every iteration of Star Trek.
Just about, yeah.
I know he was on Discovery at the end of season 1.
Oh, for Christ's sake, I got to look this up. I am so embarrassed about this.
He was the creepy kid in that one episode in TOS. Yeah.
And I'm going to hate myself when I find out the name of the... my brother, Tranya. Have some Tranya. I hope you relish it as much as I. I know this goddamn episode by heart. How can I not? Corbomite maneuver. Oh, Jesus. Just fire me. I don't deserve to be a Star Trek fan.
It's going on your permanent record.
None of us could remember.
No, we're all guilty. It's fine.
All right. Until next time, remember, 21st century history isn't one of my strong points. It's too depressing.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I've got to go put my daughter to bed. Give me a minute before we start the next one. All right.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
be right back.
Okay.
Oh. All of our streamers have logged off. We're at 0 right now.
You're like, bye.
Boz probably went to bed. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I was like, it's late. I was like, he's actually up. Wow.
Yeah.
So have we? Yeah, it's like, yeah, no kidding. But are we still doing a Patreon movie for July?
Yeah, but not this week. It'll probably be next week.
Okay. If it's Friday, I can't do it. But
No, it won't be Friday. I can't do Fridays. It'll probably be either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on.
Thursday would be better for me. But
Yeah, it'll probably be Thursday because I think Rick records on Wednesday. So.
Yeah, I'm going to next weekend. I'm going to GalaxyCon. Woo! I finally get to go to a con again.
Where is that?
Raleigh.
Oh, in Raleigh. Okay, cool.
That's going to be fun. Brett Spiner's going to be there.
Oh wow! How
and
much
I
is
finally, it's $60.
You scared me. What? Huh? You going to bed or are you just gonna lay down? Well, I'm not going to bed. Okay. I love you.
Yeah, Brett's going to be there, and Bill Shatner's going to be there.
What?
Do I need to do something in my hair or something to make you jump now?
I just didn't know you were there.
It happens.
I looked up and my wife was just standing there. I was like, "Where'd you come from?"
But yeah, Brett's going to be there, and Bill Shatner's going to be there. So that's gonna be fun.
They charge a lot for their autographs.
Brent's going to charge $60 for an autograph. Bill, being Bill, he's going to charge $100 for an autograph. I'm going to get him to sign this finally. I have this on cassette.
What is it? I can't see what it is.
Okay.
Oh, Yellow Eyes is back. Yeah.
my brother who's going with me, he said, okay, either he's going to be totally tickled pink that you have this, or his eyes are going to bug out that you have this. I'm like, yeah, probably both.
Yeah, I saw somebody had taken a picture where they had seen Brent Spiner at a con, and they had him autograph something, and they had him write like "May the Force be with you" on it or something like that. And you can see Brent Spiner was in the background of the picture, and he didn't look very happy.
No. Ooh, bless you, Nick.
Thank you.
The other actors are going to be there. Brendan Fraser is going to be there.
Oh, cool.
Lana Parrilla is going to be there. I can never say her name right. From Once Upon a Time, she's going to be there. A bunch of wrestling people are going to be there. Like, I don't really know any of them except for Sergeant Slaughter. I know him. A lot of voice actors are going to be there. The voice actors for Ahsoka and Anakin from Clone Wars are going to be there. Let's see. Jim Cummings is going to be there. I mean, you can look at the whole list, but it's a wide variety of people for a tiny little con like this. So I've actually signed up to get a signature from Lana, get a picture with Lana. Gonna get a signature from Brent. I'd have to check exactly how much Brendan Fraser's are going to be. It's probably going to be too much for me to get all three of them to sign. But yeah, it's going to be fun, and I'm going to go cosplay and everything. It's going to be great.
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't like about the cons is the fact that I can't afford to get all the autographs that I want. And then I go and I just get bummed out that I'm there and I can see them, but I can't get.
Well, that's what I like about Dragon Con is because Dragon Con, there's so many people there that the autographs are maybe, depending on the celebrity, $30, $40. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, like when we went in 2017, because we're going again this year. Yay! The most expensive autographs we saw were like $50.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I was telling
next
them.
time you're listening.
Yeah.
Next time you're listening to Captain Game Show and you're like, why the hell don't you know that? This is what happens when your brain locks up when you're doing a show and you can't remember your middle name. I know the Corbomite maneuver as well as I know my middle name, and just
It happens. It happens, Rick.
It's embarrassing.
It's called podcast brain. We all do it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of That Star Trek Podcast, a show that knows that if the past 2 years has proven anything, it's that time travel will never exist. Because if it did, somebody would have come back and changed it. Unless we're just in the darkest timeline.
Have you seen any of the back when the quarantine started and there were various cartoons going around Facebook and stuff where it was like a time traveler appears to somebody, goes, quick, what year is this? 2019. Oh, the first year of the quarantine.
Yeah. All right. My name is Sean Ray, and joining me tonight in the historic Infinite Potato Virtual Studio, we have Jen. How's it going, ma'am?
It's going well. Thank you for having me, as usual.
We have Rick. How are you, sir?
Is it now or 5 hours from now?
Or 3 hours from now. And we are also joined by Neek Yeager. How are you?
I'm good. Hello.
Tonight, we're continuing our time travel retrospective with Star Trek and the Deep Space Nine third season episode Visionary, written by Ethan Kalk and John Shirley, directed by Reza Badiou. The original air date was February 27th, 1995. While a Romulan delegation tries to get information about the Dominion, O'Brien gets visions of unpleasant things that are about to happen in the future. I think visions is kind of a loose term. It's not really visions. He's going into the future. I
got to stop bitching about the IMDb synopses because they're just so bad.
Okay, we'll do our hot takes. my overall thoughts on this episode are that it's a very memorable episode. As much as I enjoy time travel stories, I think I like it better when the time travel mechanism is not like a thing. You know, it's not a time machine. It's a thing that's just happening, you know. Time travel is the result of a set of circumstances. I think it makes for interesting storytelling. I'm a little bit iffy on the mechanics of this because I think it's a little bit corny that it's just, oh, it's radiation. It seems like radiation was the answer for everything in like the 50s and 60s. You'd think they'd come up with something a little bit better in the 90s, but still. I think he gets a solid 3 stars. Colin Meaney has always been fantastic, and I think he does a good job in this episode. But Nick, what do you think? What do you think of this episode?
Yeah, I think it's a solid episode. I agree with you. The way the time travel works is a little iffy, but you could say that about absolutely every time travel story ever. So
Yeah.
you just have to suspend your disbelief and go with it. But I like the idea of, it's just one person time traveling and seeing their own future. And it's happening to one person going through something weird where your first assumption is like, wow, that was a hallucination, because why would your mind immediately go to time travel? But then, it becomes clear that something more is happening. And then in classic Star Trek fashion, he explains like, hey guys, something weird is going on. And everyone believes him and jumps on board and helps to solve the problem. So classic Trek.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I do like about the time travel in this is that when he sees the thing that's happening in the future, when it actually happens, it doesn't quite happen the way that it did when he saw it. Like the first time he looked over and he saw himself across the promenade, but when he saw it from his point of view, Quark didn't see him.
Yeah.
But then when it actually happened, Quark looked over and saw him and said, "You've got bigger things to worry about," and walked off. Jim, what about you? What you think? Were you going to say something, Nick? I'm sorry.
Just that it's sort of hilarious how easily Quark accepts that this strange thing is happening. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, here's a weird thing. Just another day at Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, yeah. Another day at the office. Jim, what'd you think?
I'd totally forgotten about this episode, to be honest. I had to rewatch it. Like, oh, it's an O'Brien episode where he sees visions. Yeah, I agree. The radiation thing was kind of, but it was better than, oh, he gets in a transporter accident, or he ends up in another room, or it's something on the holodeck, or so this was a quick way to go, oh, he's had something goes boom and something happens to him. I mean, that's pretty much what happened. And then he just happens to see stuff from a few hours in the future. And for me, the O'Brien episode, I did enjoy it. I think it was one of his better ones. It kind of reminded me of, the episode later on where Sisko gets stuck and Jake has to try and get him out. Thank you. But that's from Jake's point of view. Yeah. That's actually one of my favorites. We'll get to that.
I can remember the Visitor. I can't remember the goddamn Corbomite maneuver, but
but that was from the other person's perspective, that they're seeing the other person jumping through time. But so I thought of this was the reverse of that one. But so this was from the perspective of the person who's seeing the things in the future. I don't know. I rewatching it again because I didn't remember it. I'm like, it's okay. It's not one of my favorites, but that's just me.
Okay. All right, Rick, what about you?
Well, Sean, you might be relieved to hear that the time travel in this one really pissed me off. I think it was really good up until the last act. I think it was doing really well. When I was looking through, okay, we're going to do, what's next? and I saw Visionary, and I was like, I don't remember which one that was. And then I saw which one it was. I was like, oh, geez, I don't know if I can sit through this one again. But I did. And I was like, all right, it's not as bad as I remember it. I don't know why I thought I remembered it being worse than it was. And then we get to the last act. And, all through it, O'Brien goes forward, sees something, comes back, says something, changes it. Everything's fine. But then we get to that last one where the whole goddamn ship blows up, or the station blows up, and he travels 3 hours into the future to find himself asleep in bed. Why the hell would he go to bed? It was like they suddenly went, okay, the whole future timeline was a separate one from the one that we're experiencing, which allowed, and I know that spoilers aren't an issue for this, if you haven't watched the episode, why are you listening to this? But, the whole Harry Kim switch with the dead guy from the future who's really from the past. And, it just got really, they just kind of went, fuck it, we're going to do whatever we want at that point. And to me, that ruined a perfectly good episode up to that point.
Yeah, it was weird that the beginning of the episode, it seemed like he was traveling to the future of the same timeline that he was in.
Mm-hmm.
But then by the end of the episode, it's like he was going into another timeline. And if they had just said something like the fact that he's made so many changes to the timeline, it's branched off and he's not necessarily going to the same timeline. If they said something, a line probably would have fixed it. But yeah, the fact that he gets there and he's in bed and it's like,
Miles, what are you doing here? Don't you remember what happened 3 hours ago?
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, if you really think about it, if he traveled to the future, his future self shouldn't be there because his future self disappeared 3 hours ago.
Well, except that he goes back to where he left from, but then he didn't, and that's when it all just went. Look at the monkey! Look at the monkey!
Yeah. Trash can. All right. So Dr. Bashir is tending to Chief O'Brien in the ops pit. O'Brien asks what happened. Cisco tells him that one of the plasma conduits blew. Those damn plasma conduits blew out while he was attempting to reroute a phase inducer. And Bashir tells him that he has a mild case of radiation poisoning, and he injects him with a dose of Hyronalin to counter the effects.
Which is a throwback to TOS, The Deadly Years. See, I remembered that one too.
But yeah, like I said, there's that thing about the plasma conduits. They just randomly blow up when you don't need them to. They blow up in your face whenever you're using the computer panel. So a Romulan delegation is visiting Deep Space Nine in order to receive some intelligence about the Dominion promised to the Romulans by Starfleet in exchange for the use of their cloaking device on the Defiant. Complicating matters is the presence on the station of a crew of Klingons, another alien race with a history of poor relations with the Romulans. And then Quark is setting up a dartboard in the bar, and Chief O'Brien is showing him how the game is played. He aims for the board, but there's a bright flash of light, and he's transported to the upper level of the promenade. But something isn't quite right. O'Brien looks across the way, and he sees himself arguing with Quark about the damage that the Klingons are doing to two of his holosuites. Quark asks O'Brien that a maintenance crew be dispatched immediately. A confused look comes across his face as the other O'Brien tells Quark to keep the Klingons out of the holosuites from now on. Finishing his conversation, he turns away, and the two lock eyes. Both incredibly confused by what's happening. Yeah, well, the other one shouldn't be confused because he already did that. But before he can say anything, the original O'Brien is back in Quark's bar. His dart hits the bullseye. He's a pretty good dart player if he can hit the bullseye and travel in time at the same time that he throws it. But so yeah, that's the first quantum leap that O'Brien has in this episode, and he has several more. It's an unexpected side effect of the radiation exposure. He begins experiencing time shifts each 5 hours into the future. He runs into Quark just as he did before, but this time around Quark sees him as well. I also would like to hear some kind of an explanation, like as the radiation sickness gets worse, maybe the amount of time that he's shifting could change or something like that. You know, maybe he travels 5 hours this time, he travels 4 hours the next time or something like that, you know, but because that's how they end up getting him to go. Well, we wanted to just go 3 hours into the future. Well, let's change the amount of radiation. Let's give him a super dose of radiation, and that'll change how far it goes. So anyway, Bashir has run a microcellular scan and detected damage to O'Brien's cerebrospinal nerve cells, which he thinks has been caused by the time shifting. And he tells him that he can repair the current damage, but the effect is cumulative, and there may come a time when, if the time shifting continues, he can no longer repair the damage, and O'Brien could die. Sisko comforts him by telling him that Dax is using every scanner on the station to hunt for the temporal abnormalities, which is some relief to O'Brien. But he shifts anyway, and he sees a big brawl going on in Quark's bar with the Klingons in another time jump, and then he in another one he sees his future self being killed by an explosion in the corridor near the Romulans' quarters. You know, after he saw himself get killed by that explosion,
It was an explosion. It was a phaser.
Yeah, the phaser. The next scene, he's showing Sisko where it was, and he says, "Are you sure it was this corridor?" And he says, "I'm absolutely sure." I'm like, "How do you know? They all look the same."
Right? I was thinking the same exact thing. Like, what?
That hallway looks exactly like the other hallway you used last week.
All right. Speaking as the Miles O'Brien of my theater, you know your ship.
But it's not a ship.
Well, still.
He knows his station. He
Yeah.
knows where he is.
There are going to be things that. Okay. Here. A better, more accessible example. You're the parent of twins. You can easily tell your twins apart, even though other people can't.
Yeah.
Unless it's Everybody Loves Raymond.
Sorry, that's never watched
it. There's an episode where he got his twins mixed up.
You know, when you work as intimately with a building, a vehicle, whatever you want to call it, as Miles does, you're going to be able to tell the difference, because no two locations on the station are going to be exactly identical. There's going to be stuff that's different.
Well, also, right. I assume they're labeled. Like, I assume when you go to a door, it says the number on it, or like.
But aren't they all in Cardassian?
Well, I'm sure O'Brien can read Cardassian at this point.
I'm not reading any of those Cardi words. Those spoon heads. So Odo figures out that somebody has used the replicator in the quarters to turn it into a transporter and transport that phaser into the wall outside, which seems, even for Star Trek, that sounds really complicated.
Because I buy that. I mean, of all the, in a sense, I'm surprised they don't do things like that more often, because you've got all these tech geniuses on all these ships and stations and everything, and they're surprised when someone comes out with something innovative. Like, sure, of course you could use, like, the replicator, the transporter, the holodecks, they're all based on the same technology, so why wouldn't you be able to cross-pollinate? And
well, yeah, but once this is one of those things that once you introduce this as a thing that can be done, why is it never done again? Because we've had episodes where people are trapped in their quarters or something. Why can't they transport themselves out?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they made it clear that it was one, to quote Sisko, a very delicate bit of transporter operation, or however he put it.
Well, that was
And
just
two-
because they were transporting that into a wall.
Yeah.
It might not be that as difficult to transport something just into the hallway.
Well, but also, Odo giving his long-winded explanation of where the thing came from. The particular piece of tech they were using was, had to go through several different steps of legality to get it, and then smuggle it on board the ship, and then sneak it into the replicator. So it's not like it was just, hey, Bob down the hallway once beamed a parakeet into his daughter's bedroom. I think we can use that tech. This was some really obscure stuff.
Yeah. Well, they stopped that from happening, but then O'Brien is again flung into the future. This time he's in the infirmary and he sees his dead body on the table. So, God, no matter what I do, I die. And he's covered in a white sheet. He pulls the sheet back and sees that it's him, and he covers it back up. Bashir comes around the corner, and he acts like he was expecting him to be there. And he says,
"About freaking time, dude!
When you go back, you've got to tell." That kind of reminds me of
what?
a couple of scenes from All Good Things where Picard would travel to the past, and somebody would tell him, "When you go back, you need to tell me to do this." But yeah, Bashir tells him that he had some radiation damage to the basilar arteries in his brainstem. And he needs
something like that, yeah.
He needs to scan for that so that he can fix the damage before he dies. So when he goes back, he does that. He tells him to scan for that, and he fixes it. But then he shifts again, and he sees the entire station exploding. And but it's funny. I almost wish that they had said that every time you jump, you're going to be connected to yourself. They never said that, but that's what happened. Every time he jumped, he was near himself, so that would explain why he's on this runabout instead of on the station. He's on this runabout and his self is piloting it, and he turns and he looks at, "Oh, hi, I don't know what happened. I just woke up and and all these alarms were going off. So I got everybody on this runabout and took off." So he looks out the window and he sees the whole station explode. And so when he goes back, he tells Cisco, "Hey, I don't know why, but the whole station is going to blow up in like 5 hours. So we need to figure out why." So the way that they solve this is that he needs to go forward a little bit to find out what happens, but he doesn't need to go as far as he did. So
it's like, he can't control it. What are you talking about?
They flood him with like some radiation. They put this thing on him, and it lets him go just 3 hours into the future. And like Rick said, when he gets there, his other self is just asleep in bed. So he wakes him up, and the radiation has gotten so bad that he can't make the trip back. So he gives the thing on his arm to his other self, sends him back to let let everybody know that it's a cloaked Romulan warbird that's the cause of what explodes the station. So our Miles, the Miles that we've been following for 3 seasons, is dead now. And we've got an alternate timeline O'Brien going back and showing up in his bathrobe and telling Bashir, or telling Cisco, what to do about it and everything. So the Romulans intended to destroy the station and the wormhole in order to cut off any further contact with the Gamma Quadrant to stop the Dominion from being able to come through. So Cisco tells them, "Yeah, well, you need to get off my station because right now I've got a bunch of torpedoes aimed at your cloaked warbird right now." So, and that solved the problem because the other O'Brien didn't have any radiation poisoning. He's not dying, and now everything's good except one version of O'Brien is dead now.
One O'Brien's as good as another.
Yeah.
I think Keiko would have something to say about that, but okay.
Well, that would have been a fun follow-up if they actually, did have a scene where it's like, hey, Keiko, remember when this thing happened? No, I don't. Or vice versa. Like, you're a different timeline, O'Brien.
Yeah, this was one of those weird ones that, because I don't know what it was with the actress that played Keiko. For some reason, she wasn't on the show as much. They had to find a reason to have her off. They had her go and teach it on Bejor or something like that. So she was gone a lot. So it's one of those,
because Rosalind Chow was doing lots of other projects. She couldn't commit fully to DS9.
So it's one of those weird episodes where Miles has a wife and daughter, but he doesn't always have a wife and daughter. Sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not. So, and then at the end, O'Brien uses his limited knowledge of the future to annoy Quark and tell him when the Dabo tables are gonna score and all that. Which I don't understand Dabo. I don't know how how is it supposed to work. And I know that just every once in a while somebody screams Dabo, and that's supposed to be a good thing.
I thought it was spelled similar to roulette, but
I don't know. All right, I've got some trivia here. Freelancer Ethan Kalk sold this story on his very first pitch session to Deep Space Nine. He pitched numerous other ideas before finally landing his second sale, which is contributing the story that turned into the episode Children of Time in 1997. So Ethan Kalk apparently likes writing time travel stories, or at least pitching the ideas for time travel stories. In his pitch, though, it wasn't going to be the Romulans. It was going to be the Nausicaans as the villains. And they were... Actually, I think the Nausicaans were going to take place of the Klingons, not the Romulans. But they were rejected as not being familiar enough as the Klingons. So the Romulan / Klingon plot was more familiar to audiences, I guess. The script of this episode received an uncredited rewrite by Ronald Moore. It was Moore's idea to kill the present O'Brien and replace him with a duplicate from the future. Moore was also part of the writing staff on the Next Generation episode Second Chances, and that team temporarily considered killing off Riker and replacing him with his own transporter duplicate. This episode marks the first time that we ever see the total destruction of Deep Space Nine. The footage... wait a minute. The footage of the Romulan warbird firing on Deep Space Nine is footage previously used to depict a warbird firing on Admiral Jarok's shuttle from the Defector, the Next Generation episode. Science advisor Andre Bormanis had two major tasks. He had to find a technical explanation for why O'Brien was jumping through time, and he had to determine how the Klingons could transport surveillance equipment into a bulkhead. Figuring out the first wasn't too difficult, according to Bormanis. Yeah, because you just kind of threw crap at the wall and saw what stuck. He merely had to create a description of what mechanism might allow O'Brien to do what he's doing. He did admit that the use of radiation as a trigger was a little on the campy side. You think? As for the surveillance equipment, he thought it was quite plausible that somebody had gone to the trouble of hollowing out a space inside the wall for the object and then used a very carefully tuned transporter beam to get it there. However, he was concerned about modifying a replicator to work as a transporter, as it had been established previously that replicators only work on a molecular level, whereas transporters require a quantum level resolution. His belief that such a modification would have required a great deal of skill was briefly addressed through Odo's line that the culprit had performed a very sophisticated and very professional job. Destroying the station proved to be the biggest special effect of the episode. Blowing up the station was a very, very big deal. We decided that the station had to blow up, and it had to be particularly spectacular. So it was a very elaborate deal. Hutzel connected this commitment to a larger change occurring behind the scenes. The producers of Deep Space Nine were now much more interested in showing feature quality special effects that they than they had been during the run of the Next Generation. Consequently, Deep Space Nine was granted a much larger budget for visual effects than its predecessor had been. For the actual destruction, special effects master Gary Monick had the model maker Tony Menninger took two new castings from the station's original 6-foot mold. The duplicates were very similar to the original, but it didn't have any of the lighting elements. And they set up the whole process. We rigged it so that it would go off in about 10 stages, 10 separate explosions had to go off within half a second. The explosions were shot with a high-speed camera at 10 to 15 times the normal speed. A half-second multi-blast took up to 5 to 7 seconds of film. The two models, they rigged the two models somewhat differently so that they could decide after filming which explosion looked better. On what goes into making an explosion, Monick explained that there's a little bit of everything: glitter, black powder, rubber cement, sparkle, flash, sometimes a little high explosive primer cord stuff. So,
long story short, blew it up real good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically they blew it up and they just shot it with a high speed camera and it looked good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I've
It sounds
got.
like they just give me everything that blows up, and we're going to cram it into these two models. Overcrank that camera. Go.
So I think this was a little bit of a shorter episode, but there's not really a whole lot more to say about this episode. It's just it's a decent episode. It's kind of run of the mill. It's got its issues, but it was it was kind of a filler episode during when they were starting this Dominion War storyline. They had these filler episodes every now and then to just, they had to fill in 20 some odd episodes a season. But really only 10 or 15 of those episodes were about the war. The rest of them just kind of filled in time. And this was one of those. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is also sort of, and I don't recall the exact order. Was this before or after the one where Miles got the memories of being in prison for 20 years?
I think this was before that.
Okay. So this is kind of the beginning of the Miles must suffer.
Yeah.
I really like that episode though. That's that episode can almost just be a science fiction story that doesn't have anything to do with Star Trek. I mean, it's just a really good science fiction story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's poor Miles. But you can take solace in knowing that it's not the same Miles, because that Miles is the other.
That Miles is no longer with us.
That Miles is dead. Long live Miles. Who is, according to Lower Decks, the most important character that's ever been in Starfleet.
Yeah.
So,
which I won't disagree with that.
If they just figure out his rank. I mean, they kept changing his rank whenever he was on a show. Like,
well, they finally sorted it out on DS9. He's a chief petty officer. But in TNG.
He went from he was an officer because he was a lieutenant, and then he became a junior lieutenant, and suddenly he was a petty officer. I'm like, what?
Yeah, but they said in that episode where Worf's parents came to the Enterprise, they said he was an enlisted man, so he wasn't. He wasn't on the officer on the officer track or whatever anymore. But
he also wasn't always Miles O'Brien. The first.
First season he was another character. Yeah.
He was just a guy. Go stand next to the transporter.
And he was in a red shirt instead of a yellow shirt. So, yep.
I mean, we assume it was Miles, but he was never addressed.
In all good things, they pretty much said he was Miles. But
in all good things, they went back and retcon that it was Miles. So, all right, folks, as soon as the podcast is over, I'd like for you to head over to patreon.com/infinite potato, because that's where the party continues. Our patrons get a lot of perks like early access to episodes, special movie reviews every month. We're planning a hangout soon with our upper level, our premium level patrons. You can join for just $3 a month. And if you donate $5 or $10 a month, you will be thanked on the podcast as a producer, which is the case for Bulent Bingal, Jeff Hughes, Tom Corcoran, Dale Goodall, and Brandon Ushio. And your donation helps to goes towards things like StreamYard, like we're using right now, and our recording software and things like that. So go check that out. Patreon.com/Infinite Potato. And that is this week's episode. We're going to be back in a couple weeks with another episode. We will be talking about this Deep Space Nine Season 4 episode, The Visitor. All right. Jen, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Yay! It's always a pleasure.
Neek, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. You can find me at superanemic.com or on Facebook, Super Anemic.
And Rick, thank you as well.
Thank you. I'm not going to try to remember any episode titles. I'm just going to tell you, find me on the Prime Direction or Starbase 66 or Open the Iris or on Captain Game Show from time to time or on that Star Trek podcast, which you're listening to right now, or that Super Fan Talk podcast, which I'm also on most of the time.
All right. Check out our website at infinitepotato.com. You'll find links to all of the places where you can contact us, like Facebook, Twitter, and the like. Let us know what you think. Also, go to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star rating and a review. That goes a long way toward helping more people find the podcast. And we will see you soon. Until then, I hate temporal mechanics.
20 Outer Ring.